competition, but it's impressive to see specific solutions being addressed with
Yep.
these apps. Yeah.
I think yeah, real life problems.
Mm.
My only concern though is
Yeah.
that well, I know female students are largely well, I know female students are largely vulnerable to abuse, and I mean all forms of abuse,
Mm.
but male students are as well. So
True. True.
if the story says that it's strictly for female students to report, who will report when a male student gets
Well,
abused?
I mean, I think a male student will be able to use the same app to
Okay,
report
so
now.
I
Yeah,
well,
if you're
I'm
a
just
student and
commenting
you're
to the
gonna
story. The
okay,
story says specific for female
right,
students.
right.
I think everybody that is prone to abuse
Mm.
should be able to find justice somehow,
So use
and I
it,
think
yeah.
everybody should be able to report using any medium that's available to
Good
report.
stuff. Good stuff. All right. So shout out to all the winners there. Okay. The NCC, the Nigerian Communications Commission, came out this week saying that we've seen an increase in FDI coming into the telecom sector. As far as 2017 is concerned,
Mhm.
$70 billion came in to the country. So far this year, up to the third quarter, we've had $85 billion that has come into Nigeria,
Mhm.
coming into telcos. Its increased contribution to GDP has increased to 10.5%, yeah, up from 9.1% in
Mhm.
2016. So as of June of this year, 10.5% increase in GDP contributions from the telecommunications sector. So look, Fisayo, we're seeing this increase. It's all good. It's nice. This came from the Director of Consumer Affairs, Mrs. Felicia. Hey, this is her last name, eh? Onwe Buchulam. That's the NCC's director. Fisayo, the main discussion point here. Kayode and I were talking, we're going back and forth yesterday about the CBN allowing banks to compete on the basis of fees.
Mhm.
Why won't the CBN allow telcos to compete with banks
Mhm.
for customers in the financial sector? It's happened in other African countries. Why don't they allow it here? Considering that all the FDI that's pouring into telcos, the increased contribution to GDP, they're using technology to try and reach more people. Why won't they allow this happen?
Okay, so I think this is okay. Okay, there's Rotus wants telcos to
It's
compete
not
with
Rotus
banks.
ones. I'm asking. I'm asking you, why would they allow telcos to compete
Yeah,
with banks? Yeah.
because they're in different businesses. Telco is a telco, a bank is a bank.
But Amazon is going into banking. They want to go, and if you look at Amazon as an
So it means
example,
the Amazon will get a banking license.
okay,
Yeah, so it means it has become so it has a banking subsidiary, not as an e-commerce platform that can do banking. Again, I'm not going to go into
right, the weeds.
the weeds of
Uh-huh.
who is doing what, who is doing nothing. And then, like I mentioned while we're downstairs, that even African countries that have allowed telcos to perform some banking
Hmm.
services, you know, the banking regulators seem to have some little regret around it.
Okay.
Yeah, because to a large extent, uh, it has stopped them from protecting the banks basically. So it means that telcos seem to be, you know,
Eating the bank's lunch.
eating the bank's lunch to a large extent. So
Uh-huh.
it's not going to happen in Nigeria. It's not going to happen. Kenya had made the mistake, right? On the regulatory point of view, right?
Right.
However, to the consumers, a lot of times consumers like and prefer to use because they have their mobile numbers already.
Hmm.
You can use the transfer and pesa here and there. However, other countries have done that huge financial inclusion.
Okay.
Uh, India just improved its financial inclusion metrics greatly. They intentionally silenced the telcos in
Mm.
this way. They allowed people, PayTM, other service providers to provide the services by circumventing totally the telcos from it. So it's there are ways to ensure financial inclusion without necessarily bringing the telcos in. And I know most regulators don't want telcos because of their reach and all of that, and to do too much in banking. And
Hmm.
then it's also difficult to regulate because hey, it's a telco, it's a hole in there. You don't even know what is necessarily happening, money laundering concerns, and all of those things. So again, there are valid reasons to think that the regulators would want to prevent such from happening.
Okay.
However, to a large extent, we believe that it's just trying to
To
protect the
protect the
banks
banks, right?
to a
The
large
banks are
extent.
afraid. Isn't this ironic? I'm pushing. I was pushing for more competition amongst banks yesterday, but then banks are now afraid of competition from telcos, and that's the reason why we're seeing what
Have
we're
you not
seeing.
seen reactions to banks and fintechs?
But see, Fisayo, we have other stories to get into. But that's the point of a regulator now. You're supposed to monitor everything
But
and
when the
make
regulator
sure
is an
that
ex-banker,
then there you go.
in the last, the only regulator I've seen that's not well
For Nigeria,
is
Abi?
Charles Soludo,
Right.
right? It was the non-ex-banker, that had been CBN governor in recent history.
Right.
So
As long as we have an ex-banker at the head of the CBN, we probably won't see this happening.
Correct.
Well, hey, look, the numbers speak for themselves with how telcos are growing in Nigeria. Okay, speaking of a telco, Bloomberg looked at court documents that were filed by the CBN with regards to MTN. I thought this matter was buried, but apparently, big headline that came out yesterday. Apparently, CBN is now seeking 15% interest on the $8 billion that MTN repatriated out of the country overseas back to South Africa in dividends. According to these court documents, they want them to pay. They say 15% up front, and then annualized interest on the money, and then 10% going forward until this matter is resolved.
So the idea is that depending on the time you repatriate this money, you're accruing interest on it.
Oh,
15%.
Right.
So but because the matter is so in court, they're like, okay, pending court decision.
Right.
So you're going to be paying 15% interest on this money pending court decision. Once the court now finally decides that you are meant to repatriate this money, from that decision day till the time you repatriate, you also accrue 10% interest. So which is to a large extent. But like we mentioned in the morning, maybe court filings and then the CBN's speech.
Yes, last week, because we thought, because the MFLS said that this matter looked like it was going to be resolved. Everybody thought it was over, and then now we see that
figured it out.
Right.
Stanbic, everybody seems to have come to a round table and agreed on how to do it. So, but Bloomberg coming up with this story appears that they're just trying they were fact checking to see the court document, because they said they saw the court document,
right,
and then the court document had been filed even before the CBN governor and the CBN, issued their statements last week. So maybe it's a timing issue, maybe not, but we'll figure it as the time goes by.
Now, okay, Truecaller, they've launched a chat feature. They want to tackle the spread of fake news. So Truecaller, and by the way, I've been very impressed with how Truecaller works, even though I personally don't use it. But they have announced that they're launching an instant messaging platform called Truecaller Chat, with the aim of making communication safer to prevent the proliferation of fake news. I mean, we have an election coming up. We've already seen with all the primaries going on in Osun and Lagos and elsewhere, stuff coming out about candidates, even beyond that. Do you think this is going to be effective? Because it's up to, like, if you and I are chatting now and I share something with you, you can report it. You can report the link and say, no, this thing should be flagged. So it's up to you as your discretion as to how, what do you think can go?
So to a large extent, I think the story is sensational. All right.
Okay.
So Truecaller launches chat feature to tackle the spread of fake news. No, Truecaller launched the chat feature to ensure that people use their app a lot more frequently, to get people to chat within the app. This story around fake news is just trying to ride on sentiments that we've already seen, because there's nothing different in what Truecaller is trying to do than compared to what Telegram or WhatsApp is trying to also do to tackle spread of fake news. Because now if you forward a chat on WhatsApp will, it's forwarded.
It's forwarded,
again,
right.
So there are all of these other measures that have been put in place, but Truecaller wants people to get more engaged in this app.
Okay.
They don't want them to just use it to investigate,
right,
who the caller is and all of that. They want people to be able to interact much more with the app. So I think that's what's just happening here.
Okay, all right.
Messages here. This one says, "Morning, guys. The presidency will not see people like Mr. Riti to appoint as Minister of Women Affairs." What the solution? Who is solution oriented? Mr. Riti, kudos to you, Jerry. You did us proud. And this is from Stephen.
From Stephen, thank you for that, Mr. Riti. Shout out to you again once more. Fisayo, thank you so much for joining us today for Tech Friday on Business Express. Kayode, Baker 19. Huh? That ought to do it.
Yes, that ought to do it. All right, guys, stay close to Radio. More great programming comes your way.
This thing confused me again. But